Hello, I am the Holoham. Today's video will be different. Today I will be showing you how to do a Labyrinth duel. Now, those of you who know Yu-Gi-Oh might have watched, might have seen the Duel of Kingdom episodes when Joey and Yugi faced off against Para and Dox, who they who they and who they cleaned the clocks. That did not sound as clever as I wanted it to. Anyway, this is something that me and Pokewalker came up with after watching that episode. I did have these all off here before the first time I started filming, but as you can guess, my screen froze there, my camera froze on me. This isn't like the final draft, it's just a little demo. Anyway, every labyrinth, of course, has to have traps like this one here. You're only going to find one piece, but it's just for demonstration. Now, some cards will have different effects than in the main show, depending on where they come from and how they're used. Like, for example, the trap card Just Desserts. If you drew this from this pile, then you'll lose then instead of your opponent losing life points, you'll lose life points. In addition, if you take from your deck and activate a card like Shift, right here, instead of just simply switching the attack target of your opponent's monster, it'll instead swap your monster's positions, like it did in the show. Like how Yugi swapped the Dark Magician with Black Skull Dragon. Apologies for spoilers. Apologies for spoilers if you have not watched it. And a card like Interdimensional Mana Transporter will affect your monster. It will affect the monster that stepped on the trigger if you trigger that. Now next up, just like in the show, you can summon monsters to the field, just as usual, and then you take a little Lego piece, like this Lego piece here, place it down. Every fourth space counts as a every square counts as a space, about like this. So like from here to about here would be 2 spaces. And just like in the show, they can move up to the number of their stars. So like clockwork, they would move 4 spaces, starting out from right out here. Like 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. In addition, if you have one or more monsters in the same spot and your opponent attacks, then your opponent attacks all monsters simultaneously but the attack points are stacked. So for example, if say your opponent attacked with a Blue Eyes White Dragon, and you had a Stardust Dragon and a Quillbolt Hedgehog on the same space, the Blue Eyes White Dragon would be attacking both monsters at once. In other words, instead of fighting a 2500 and an 800, it would be fighting against 3300 attack points. So in other words, Blue Eyes White Dragon would lose to another dragon and a rodent with both coming out of it. So, which brings, and now I'm going to tell you about how to summon bigger monsters, such as Stardust Dragon. Now, unlike in a regular duel, now, in order to summon a monster like, say, number 39 Utopia, instead of simply having the monsters both on the field, you have to have the monsters on the field in the same spot. Like, hold on a second. Sorry about that. I was lagging a little before. Now, anyway, you would have to have 2 monsters on the same block. So, like having Hexagon and Mexico the Garden. You have to have them on the same block. Like so. If that does them on the same block, you can't exceed summon if they're not. And monsters that are special summoned cannot be summoned any further than your farthest monster. So if you had Mexico the Guardian and Oxygeddon and say here, and another monster like around here, then you cannot summon a monster, summon the monster any further than that. And actually, when you're summoning it, and actually you have to summon in the same spot. If you're summoning from the graveyard, especially summoning from your hand, like with a hero emerges, then you can't summon any further than your farthest monster. So keep that in mind. Oh, also, regarding if you know the show, then you know about how monsters that are level 5 and 6 are not as affected by this. They don't have to have the materials in the same spot since they only require one sacrifice. Now, anyway, monsters that are higher level, or monsters that are higher. Now, certain monsters cannot be summoned beyond the gate. Level 10s and above can only be summoned to the beginning of the board. Like Green Dragon of Raw. You can only summon him even if your material monsters are like right at your opponent's doorstep. You can only summon it to back here. Sort of like a guardian. Sort of to act as a guardian. If you understand what I mean. And monsters that have an effective target another monster, like Mech Lord Emperor Wizel, can only target monsters that are within 5 spaces of them. Only 5 within 2 spaces of them. In other words, if you have a Mech Lord Emperor here and Stardust Dragon all the way over here, your opponent's Stardust Dragon all the way over here, it won't affect it. Just to give an example. Oh yeah, I told you about the attack stacking and all that. But anyway, level 10 and above, act as a guardian, act as a gatekeeper for your life points. If your opponent wants to attack directly, they have to get past this monster or throw the guardians there first. Which makes it very difficult. There's a whole lot of twists and turns here. You have to keep in mind of. If you're not careful, it'll come out from under you. If you're not careful. Your monsters also cannot be in defense mode, so any attacks will deal damage to you. So if you want to use the super heavy samurai deck, I would strongly advise against it. It could be a bad idea depending on what you do. Anyway, and now for another thing regarding. Now there's no battle phase. You only attack when you're right on your opponent's monster, or when your opponent's monster is within striking distance. Oh, and regarding flying monsters, like Blue Eyes White Dragon here. In the show, Red Eyes White Dragon could not move due to being a flyer, and no flying was allowed in the Labyrinth. But here, it is actually allowed. But here is the thing: those that are level 5 and above can only move about half their stars. Odd number like Curse of Dragon and Red Eyes Black Dragon can move like rounded down. Like Curse of Dragon, being a level 5, would only be able to move 2 spaces at a time, and Red Eyes only 3. But they have an advantage. They can actually. Here is a piece to represent Blue Eyes White Dragon. Now, as you can see, there is a trap within 3 spaces of it, and it can only move 4. Now, normally it would trigger, but the thing with flyers, they can actually fly over the traps, the trap spaces. Sort of. And so they have their disadvantages, but they also have an advantage in that sense. So keep that in mind. So keep that in mind as you're making your deck and all that. Next up, like in the show, during that one turn, it is possible to rearrange the field. However, here is something to make you think. If you rearrange, you cannot do anything else for the rest of that turn. The choice to rearrange comes at the beginning and comes right before you draw your first card. Hold on. All right, now, as I was saying, if you rearrange, you cannot do anything else. At the beginning of your turn, you have the choice to either draw a card from your deck or to rearrange the field. So keep that in mind when you make your. So keep that in mind. You cannot rearrange the field until at least the fifth turn. And this game, depending on your choice, it can turn the tide of the battle. But always make sure to have a path open to your life points for your opponent, as that will ensure total fairness. Let's see. Another thing regarding movement. Each piece and the attack power. Each of your monsters can only move individually. So you can't have like Kobold, Hedgehog, and Stardust moving at the same time. It has to be one and then the other. So be sure to remember that as you're making your moves. Well, yeah, if you have any further questions regarding Labyrinth duels, please comment below. Or because honestly, we're still working on a few of the kinks here, but I believe I've covered all the basics. Until next time. Now I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again sometime. Until next time, this has been the Aloha, and to the I say, sayonara.